Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. And before we get into it with our guest here today, I'd like to remind everyone that if you enjoy this content, to please give a like and subscribe down below. I'd greatly appreciate it. We have Angela Noury on the podcast. She's coming to us all the way from Rhode Island. She has a little bit of a Rhode Island accent, which I just recently found out when I did a thing that will be on the blooper reel where I accidentally thought that Pawtucket was in Boston, which, hey, you learn something new every day, everyone. It is not. It is in Rhode Island. So, we got that, but she's a bodybuilder on here to share her health and fitness journey with us and discuss all things health and fitness. But most importantly, she's our current guest. Angela, thank you so much for coming on.
Not a problem.
Well, I ask this every single time, no matter how many times people say, like, oh, you ask this way too much. What's the weather like today?
It's actually, it's very bipolar, as it typically is in Rhode Island. It was raining a little earlier. Now it's sunny. It'll probably be raining again in 30 seconds. Sunny again. Little humid. Yeah. Very bipolar. That's why all the people around here are.
Hey, she said it, not me, everyone. I'm not trying to besmirch the entire Rhode Island area, but she can do it. She's the one that has to live there with him. So, hey, there's that. But hey, I'll just give you a little heads up. It was 85 yesterday and it's 50 degrees here today. So that's, we understand the bipolarness of weather up here as well. So it's just,
exactly.
That's why I'm wearing this instead of, going outside, wearing these. Oh my God. Don't even get me started. So before we depress everyone with our bipolar winter, not even winter weather, but I mean, just bipolar weather in general, why don't you give us your backstory on what really inspired and motivated you to get in shape and how that led you becoming a bodybuilder?
Well, I guess it all started when I was super young. Well, I was a tomboy my whole life. So if there was a tree, I would climb it. Always picked first in gym class. Like, I was that person.
Yeah. She was the try-hard, as we like to call, basically.
Yeah. I was good at the physical stuff, I guess. So that's what really, I guess, started it. But then I also witnessed my father working out a lot when I was young. So that helped as well. So he used to work out in my living room. So I used to work out in my living room when I was about 11. And then as I was getting a little bit older, my gifts for my birthday, I would always request a little piece of exercise equipment for my bedroom. So by the time I was like 13, I had like 5 pieces of equipment in one bed in my bedroom. So as soon as I could join a gym, I did. And then I always played sports, basketball. I danced when I was younger. I ran a lot when I first started working out. I never really had I didn't really know why I was working out. I just knew that I loved it. So first time I went to the gym, I was like instant gym rat. I wanted to go as much as possible, but I was only 15, so I had to get dropped off by my mom and all that stuff. So I could only go 3 days a week. As soon as I got my license, going to the gym every single day, there for 2-3 hours every single day. Had no idea what I was doing as far as weightlifting goes, food. I just knew I loved being there and I would spend all day there. So that's where it started. As I got a little bit older, I ended up actually getting a job as a manager of a gym, an all-women's gym, when I was 19. So then I was in the industry doing that. And then I moved on to different franchise locations, running gyms, regional manager, Planet Fitness, Crunch Fitness. There's a local gym around here that I ran. So then I was in that part of it. So when I was 24, that was when I started to compete. So I would say a little bit before that would be when I started to kind of know how to eat. I would say I was 21. Someone introduced me to the first person who did my diet. Before that, I was running 10 miles a day. So I was like, I can eat whatever I want. So I would basically work out so I could eat what I want and just keep on working out. So when I was 24, that was when I decided to compete. So I did my first show. I would say that I did bikini, but I don't even really know what it was because it's just a small little local show. So I'm not really sure what it was called. It could have been, yeah, I think it was bikini. I guess it's today's bikini. So it was a lot smaller back then, I guess you could say. So I dieted for 8 weeks and I got in shape, or at least in shape for that time. And then after that, I was hooked. So just the whole competing thing, I am competitive. It started obviously with the sports. So the competing thing was just the next step. And then it incorporated what I love to do every day, which is work out. So the eating thing obviously is the hardest part. So once I nailed that down, then I just incorporated both worlds. And then as I got older and older, I just got more and more dedicated and learned more and more about it. So now I'm 36. So I've been competing for 12 years. I did a bunch of different organizations as far as competing goes. All the classes I did bikini, I did fitness and like not IFBB, which is what I'm in now. Fitness for like WBFF or whatever it is. So it's a little bit different. So then I did figure. I did figure for a few years, and now I do women's physique, and that's where I turned pro last June. So
That is awesome. Well, I got two things. First off, so I would always love to be a fly in the wall when your dad's buying weight equipment for his daughter, just to see what the cashier says. We're like, oh yeah, you got this for your son. No, this is for my daughter. It's like her like what, like 12th birthday or something like that. And the guy's like,
yeah,
oh, okay, like that's awesome. And then when you said your dad was doing living room workouts, what was he doing for living room workouts in front of his family?
like body weight stuff.
Okay,
Like
okay.
yeah, like
So
push
he
ups.
so he didn't have like the Nautilus in the living room. Basically, it's like
No,
everyone,
no,
let's
my bedroom
yeah,
turned it.
yeah.
Oh yeah, he did all body weight stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean that's basically how everyone gets started, is doing that body weight workouts. But yeah, I've had, so believe it, you're not the first person that said like they had a dad or a parent that like would just work out in the living room and it's, but oh yeah, they're just doing their thing, yeah, in the living room right now in front of everyone. So yeah, that is awesome. But I mean, when you were getting started in the sport, like you said, you were doing what I was doing myself, where you thought like, yeah, and said, well, I wouldn't run 10 miles, I would just walk 10 miles, but like if like you could just get that much done, you could really, just do anything. How upset at yourself were you when you realized that like I don't have to run 10 miles, and I was just, because like for me when I figured that out, I was so mad and I was like, I wasted all this time doing all of that when I could have done so much more.
uh so yeah, I was pissed. I was like, what do you mean I can, and not only get in shape, but get in better shape
Yeah.
than you ever could running all those miles, which is absurd. Yeah, so I was pretty upset about that too.
Oh, I had a solid week where I was like, I don't even want to work out anymore ever again, because I was like, I just found the secret and I was like, this is ridiculous. Yeah.
But it's also like it's a mental game too, because all that time you're thinking that the running is stopping you from getting fat or whatever. So it's like it almost becomes like a disorder, right? Like you become obsessed with this thing that you think is keeping you at like a certain body fat or a certain look. And so it's hard to transition off of that. Now all of a sudden you don't need that thing. What are you talking about? That's what kept me here this whole time. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was tough.
Absolutely. And I mean, I love to talk genetics about this sport as well, because I mean, so many people, I hear this all the time. Oh my God, I want his arms. I want her abs. I want their back. And, just want to strangle them, because, like, you can train just as much as someone. You can eat just as much as they do. You're not going to see the same results as them. Everybody's just built differently genetically. And unfortunately, like, we have some genetic freaks out there. I've ran into two of them where, they were just, I mean, one of the guests, I was like, okay, there's no way that you look like that all the time. And then they showed me a photo when they were like at 8 years old and they had like an 8 pack. And I was like, okay, this is BS. Just like, just get off my podcast. Yeah, this is ridiculous. But whenever someone first gets started working out, they always have that one body part that really, really takes off, that they don't have to train as much. And they have that one body part that just drags behind it, they have to train to oblivion. What was one body part that took off for you, and one body part that you just drag behind your whole journey?
Um, so it's tough because I'm 5'11", which
6'3" myself, so I understand the tall people problems in the gym,
all
thankfully.
right,
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, I'm taller than like 98% of the male
Oh, you
bodybuilders.
can bounce them like a
So
basketball. Yeah.
so you can imagine how hard it is to be a female at 5'11". I don't have superior genetics by any means, which is probably why it took me 12 years to get to where I am. Um, but I would say it's tough. So because I would say that things take off like getting lean as opposed to getting bigger. So like my back gets lean, but I still have problems with the size of it. So it's like, so I would say that probably my legs were the thing that took the longest, which they still need improvement, but what doesn't? And my shoulders probably were the thing that took off the best in first. So
I mean, I've always made the joke, I could inject pure muscle into my legs and they won't gain an ounce. I mean, it's calves don't even get me started. I can do 10,000 calf raises a day. That's the most genetic body part of all time, and I hate it more than life itself, because you always see someone in the gym with nice calves and they've never worked them out a day in their lives. They're just natural, and you're just like, come on, dude. But yeah, so yeah, my back was the one thing that took off for me, because I worked jobs all throughout college of, lifting and loading boxes in warehouses where you really got a really nice back, you quit. That was like really the only options there. But yeah, I mean, tall people problems in the gym, I love to talk about, because that is the one thing that shocked me the most when I started to have all these bodybuilders on. They're like, yeah, I'm 5'2", I'm 5'3", and I was like, wait, what? In your photos, you look like you're like 6 or 7 inches taller. But then I've never been to one of these shows, but I've heard people that like go to these shows, and it's like you see some of these like I'm pretty sure there's photos of you on stage where it's like you look like an absolute giant compared to everyone else. Yeah, so it's
Oh yeah,
yeah.
like a head taller than everybody. Yeah, I I dwarfed them with the height, but not with the.
So how do you deal with that? Because I've always found that like bodybuilding is a sport that benefits the shorter people because you're able to put on more muscle and it just looks more proportionate to you because of your short size. And that's why the taller people are the most impressive to me because like if they're able to put on any significant amount to like even challenge the shorter people. So how do you deal with that? That like some people like a lot of the competitors in the sport are just more just I'm not going to say like heightist, but like they're more just height blessed for this sport.
Right, right. So it's a double-edged sword, right? Because if you have the height and you get the size, eventually you're going to kill everybody. So that's the thing. Like you said, it's more impressive, right? Especially if you have the structure to go behind it. So I think as far as like a tall person goes, I'm proportioned, like I'm balanced all the way through. So that's the good thing about my genetics. I wouldn't trade my height for anything.
Oh my
But
god, being tall is great. I won't. I don't care
uh,
what anyone's like. It is. Yeah, being 5'11" for a woman and 6'3" for. I mean, yeah, it is. I would. Yeah, I see short people and I sometimes think like, oh, you poor thing. Yeah. So.
right. Yeah. Exactly. So I wouldn't trade it for anything. I love it, and I think it like gives me a unique look on top of it. It's just again, it's gonna take me longer to get that certain look that people have when they're shorter. One thing that I have learned about myself over these past 12 years of competing is I'm one of those people that have to work for it. I don't have great genetics, so I've been fighting them my whole life, actually. So I'm going to have to just work harder and work longer than everybody else. And I've kind of just accepted that that's the way it's going to be.
Wait, so 5'11"? How tall are your parents?
I beat them. My father was 5'11", and my mom was 5'8". So tall for a female and above average for a male. But all my uncles on both sides over 6 foot. So needless to say, I'm the tallest female in my family.
So I thought I was adopted for a while because my mom is 5'3" and my dad is 5'10", and my grandparents, both my grandpas are 6 feet tall, but still, like I'm the tallest in the family by far. So I was like, "Are you sure?" Because like my brothers, they're one's 5'10" and one's 5'9". So I was like, "Okay, are you sure that like I'm a?" So yeah, I guess I was just the freak in the family. So hey, I'll take that. So I always find that fascinating because like just standing next to my mom is the funniest thing on the planet. So it's just there was
Yeah, I
there.
beat my brother's is like 5'9" maybe. So yeah, I'm sure he was pretty pissed about that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So yeah, there's that, and I mean, also getting into the sport. So many people have so many myths about this sport. Like I told you before we started the podcast, when I tell people that I have bodybuilders on, they just say, "Oh, those people just work out a lot and they go on stage and they pose." They do not understand that is less than 1% of this lifestyle. But did you have any myths or misconceptions about the sport before you got into it, or was it one of those things where you just wanted to dive right in and see what happens?
I just kind of dove right in. I actually didn't know much about it. I had somebody that I was working with. I was working at a gym. I had one of the trainers there. I was on the management side. I had one of the trainers there tell me, she was like, "Oh, you should compete," because it wasn't because like I was like in good shape because like I said, I was always running and I was always training. I just didn't really know like the diet end of it and things like that. But I was also in my early 20s, so I was still in shape and I was dedicated, and that's what people could see. So she was like, "Oh, you should compete because you have like the discipline for it. You just got to learn like the food part of it." So I was just like, I was like, let me think about it because again, I was running 10 miles so I could go eat a pizza if I wanted to. So I knew that and I know myself, I'm 100% dedicated to whatever I do. So I knew that if I agreed to do this, I was going all in, and all the stuff that I love was going to be gone. So I was like, "Oh, I'll think about it." So I thought about it for a couple days. I sent her a text and I was like, "Okay, let's do it." Because then in my mind, I was like, it's just the show's 8 weeks away. So I was like, I can do anything for 8 weeks. So I decided to do it. And it was definitely hard. But it's all relative because I've noticed like every time I do it, like I can snap it on so much easier now. It's almost like a light switch. So, but as far as misconceptions go, I probably would say that I didn't probably respect, but I don't think I knew. It had nothing to do with respect. I think I was just ignorant to the fact that I didn't know what went into it. As far as like how much dedication and sacrifice it takes. um, to not be able to, or you can go to things, but you can't eat. And then sometimes you're just so tired that you don't want to go to things, or you don't have the, now people that know me, like they know when when I'm prepping, I'm in the cave. Like if I I commit to no social gatherings. If I show up, great. If I don't, no one's
And
surprised.
don't expect much from her when she shows up if she does. So
Oh yeah. Might be a little angry.
yeah.
Might.
Well, and I mean, nutrition, one of the biggest things that I didn't understand before I got into this too as well is like how much food you're going to have to eat. Was that something that shocked you as well? Like how much you're going to have to pound down?
So it was more in like my off seasons that it was the shocking part. Like you think it's gonna be like, oh, good, I get to eat 4,000 calories a day. Oh no, because then every morning when you're like choking down your cream of rice and like almost puking every morning, you're like, I can't wait to start prepping, so I get to start dieting. Yeah, it was
Getting
pretty.
ramen caught in the back of your throat because you ate it the morning, which is something that happened to me before we started recording this podcast. Yeah, it's just, oh,
I'm not sure if ramen was on my plan, but I definitely choked down some cream of rice. I've choked on some cream of rice before.
I just get the cheap kind, so that's basically just my carbs, so I can fill up because I'm going for a walk right after I'm done talking to you. I'm just going for like a little 45-minute walk, so that's just my carbs because I need some energy to burn off, So there's that, but yeah, I know it's just there are times too where even like when I was like I told her I did like a 4-week prep before I gave up, but like there are times yeah where when I was preparing for the prep, I was just like I'm gonna throw up, and I was like, but you got to eat like 800 more calories, and you're just like
Like how?
yeah. So,
Meanwhile, if you have a cheat meal, you can eat 10,000 in like one sitting. You're like,
oh yeah.
fine. It's the consistency of
Yeah.
eating that many calories every single day that's the killer.
Yeah, I could go to Five Guys on once a month and just be like, "Yeah, give me, whatever you have, and I'll eat it for you." Yeah. This is also so much more of a mental sport than it is a physical sport, and people do not talk about the mental side of this sport. I mean, you can see people that it might not maybe have seen you for a while. They could just say, "Oh wow, Angela, you look amazing. Just you look great." They notice the physical changes because it's something that you can notice, but they will never notice the mental changes because it's just something that's more internal. But those mental changes are 1,000 times more important than any physical change that you'll ever have. What has this journey been like for you mentally?
I think it just made me overall. It's almost like it makes you like just hyper disciplined in everything you do. Like all of a sudden, like you transfer that energy into everything that you do in your life. So like everything becomes like structured and everything gets done in a certain time, and you become OCD with certain things. So if you're like running a business, for example, which is what I do now, it makes you that much better at that end of it. But then like scheduling, timing of things, like I hate being late. I hate it. So like I thought I was going to be a minute late for you. I like sped up everything so fast. And I know it's supposed to be casual. I know that it is. I knew if I had said, hey, I need 3 more minutes, it would have been fine. No.
I told her I needed to because I need to let the dog out. So thank God.
Well, it ended up working out, but it just like makes you focus on like the details of everything in life. So, and then obviously you like, it's always in the back of your mind. So you're carrying it on to like every thought of your day is about what you're eating, what you're training, even if you're not in prep, is like that. Like it's just always somehow it's always revolved around food and the gym and energy that you're burning. And like if I have this cheat meal, how much of a setback is it? And so it just like it affects everything. And it not that that's not a bad thing. Like I think that I mean, people can get obsessed with it, obviously, so that might become unhealthy. But I think learning like the balance of that, which is another part of the mental game of it, it's like challenging yourself to find a way to be able to enjoy things that you can enjoy when you can enjoy them without setting yourself back. So it's always learning. Like, I don't feel like there's a way to get it 100% like mentally. You know what I mean? Like maybe you figured out the physical part of it, you know exactly what to eat, you know exactly what to take, when to take it, and it gets your body to exactly where you want it. But I don't think you'll ever figure out 100% the mental game of it. That part's always trial and error.
Oh, and plus, I mean, like, yeah, like you're a bodybuilder. The mental side of the sport, as great as it is also so taxing on the mind and stuff like that. Whether we're talking about, the what's it called, body dysmorphia, or just everything that this entails with this lifestyle. I mean, it's like, yeah, it's a never ending struggle.
Yep.
Yeah,
It goes on
absolutely.
ever and ever.
I've always said the funniest thing in this entire podcast is when I have guests like after I've already had them on, they might contact me and be like, "Hey, do you think I look good for this competition?" And I was like, look in a damn mirror. You're like better than 99.9% of the general public. And they're like, do you think I look good? And it's like, are you kidding me? Like, but I've had those moments myself. But I always just find it funny where it's like for people that look so much better than the general public to once like ask friends or ask family, like, do you think I look good? And it's like, does Jennifer Aniston ask her friends, like, do you think I look pretty or something like that? So it's like, come on now, people. So yeah, I've always found that to be funny. But yeah, it's a real
But I
part
feel
of.
like that's different too, because I feel like if you are an experienced competitor, you know that you look better than 99% of the people, but you also know that you're going up against people that are the best in the world. So it's not that do I look better than
Oh,
the guy walking?
I look at it from the 99% because I've never competed, so that's how I
Right,
look at it. Yeah, yeah.
I get that. So just talking from like the experience part of it, that's like why you question it, because you know what you're going against. You're the hero in the gym, right? Like your local gym, you're going to be the hero in there. But you know that these people that you're going against are doing the same thing that you are. So
Yeah, like if you were in the bodybuilding division, you're like, "Hey, do I look like Andrea Shaw?" I'd be like, "No." I had her on once, and first of all, you want to talk about someone who takes up the whole damn camera, where you're just like, Jesus. I mean, that was.
right, a lot of space. Look at
Oh
all
my
that.
god. Hey, hey, that's the height too. That's the height thing too, though. You're not the short, stocky where you're just like, yeah,
Lot-
yeah, exactly. You got the long arms. Yeah, yeah, exactly. So that's another thing too. Yeah, but that's a whole different story. But I mean, when it comes down to this lifestyle too, as well. I would have never guessed this in a million years, but posing is the hardest thing for so many of these guests that I have on. It's harder than your nutrition. It's harder than the working out. What has your experience with posing been like?
So I would say that I sucked at it 99% of my time of competing, and I got pretty damn good at it last year. I have Kenny Wallach is my posing coach, so I used him a long time ago, like 2014 timeframe when I was doing figure. I never belonged in the figure class. I don't have that super V taper, so like I just didn't
And
belong there.
plus, you 5'11" in heels. Good God.
Oh yeah, 6'3" on stage, ridiculous. Like way too much. I don't like walking in heels. So like I love figure. I think figure is like I love that physique. So like that was always my goal. But at the time, women's physique didn't even exist. I didn't want to do bodybuilding. I was too tall to be a bodybuilder, didn't have nearly enough muscle. So I kind of started, like I said, bikini, fitness, and then figure as I was growing and growing and growing. And then I finally decided, I actually took a couple years off from competing, not really on purpose. I competed in 2018. And then I took 2019 off on purpose, started dieting at the end of 2019. And we all know what happened with COVID in 2020. So I had planned for 5 different shows. Each one got canceled. After I dieted for 7 months, because through COVID, I just dieted. I own a personal training studio, so I always had a place to work out. So that part wasn't an issue. And I was like, well, I mean, there's nothing to do anyway, so I may as well just keep on dieting. So I just kept on dieting. I was in good shape and everything like that. But after they canceled the 5th show, I was just like, it's not happening this year. So I shut it down, and my body stopped responding too. So that was the other thing. So I shut it down. I enjoyed the rest of the summer. And then I I decided to start another prep in February of 2021. And I also hired a new coach, Shelby Starnes. And that was the first time I was using him. So I picked February to start because COVID was still iffy. So I was like, well, I don't want to start in the beginning of January and then have all these shows canceled again. So I'll start a little bit later once we get like a better idea of what's happening. And then pick shows from there. So that's what I ended up doing. So I started in February. I'm sorry, I don't even remember the original question. I'm just on a
Oh no, we're
tangent.
take us. Oh my god, I love this. You kidding me? It makes my
Oh,
editing
okay,
easy. I hate
okay,
I hate listening to my voice, everyone. So the more the
oh,
guest talks, I don't care. Yeah,
awesome.
exactly.
I don't even know what this had anything to do with the original question, but I'm on like this tangent thing now. So I started in February. I picked a show that was in middle of June. I never worked with Shelby before. I wanted to see like how it would go. Plus, I really hadn't competed in all that time. Never did women's physique before. So I started working with Shelby. Started working with Kenny again it was the posing question. Posing question. Oh, there it is. So I started working
You
with
give the
Kenny.
guests enough time, they'll figure their way back to it eventually.
So when I was working with Kenny, he obviously taught me the mandatories. I worked with another girl to do my routine. I practiced these poses every single day. Every single day. Like I didn't, because number one, I had never done them before. So I wanted to make sure that I got it. And like I liked to do it. So it's not that I didn't like figure. I love figure, but it just wasn't for me. So like I didn't feel right doing it. But the women's physique, different story. Like I loved all the poses. And then each week, when you see your body changing, you see the difference in the poses. And it's like, oh wow, now it looks better this way. Like, so I just practice and practice and practice. I worked with Kenny a bunch. Um, and I just like by the time I got to the stage, which was June, I was like solid up there. Like there was no shaking, there was no question of what I was doing. I was completely confident. I think that like makes a huge difference too. Like your confidence in what you're presenting, number one, like your actual physique, but then also knowing your poses and knowing where your body looks good and know that you're nailing them. I think that makes a big difference in the presentation, obviously. So
And as someone that, like you said, you competed in something that you thought was maybe bikini, and then you did figure, and now you're at physique. Do you think those backgrounds and the sort of bikini and the figure helped you at all in your physique posing? Because obviously they're not even close to the same poses, but like, do you think that just having that background and knowing how to sometimes work your body and tweak things helped you with the physique posing?
I would say so, and I mean, I would say overall because, like you said, they are so different of poses. I would say overall just helped your like being comfortable being up there in front of judges and with the other girls and understanding like which way to turn when they say quarter turn and like just small things like that. You know, like I feel like the more you know up there and the more confidence you have, the better. So I would say that it helped me on that end of it, but not ever. It was almost like I felt it immediately as soon as I did my first women's physique show. As soon as I was on stage and they started calling the poses, I was nervous at first because this is my first time doing it. Once I got out there, it was like something just like took over my body, and I just like it was without question. Like I knew exactly what I was doing, and it like showed. So I took the overall in the first two shows, the two regional shows that I did, which was the Atlantic States in New Jersey, and then I did a Maryland show, took the overall there, and then I competed in the Universe, and that's where I got my pro card. So
That is awesome. And out of your
yeah.
physique poses, what is your favorite pose and what is your least favorite?
Okay, so I hate ab and thigh.
Yep.
Ugh, I hate it. One, because genetically my abs are awful. Like I don't have those deep, blocky abs. I have those, and my torso is like this long. So
Again, tall people. I've never,
all
honestly,
people
I have seen probably
problems.
one tall person with a nice set. Like, it's hard for tall people with abs. I mean, it just
I'm
naturally
not
is.
making excuses. I'm just saying that it
Oh,
is.
I'm no, I'm just saying from like I've had probably about like a dozen guests that are 6 feet taller, like the 5'11" range, and yeah, only like one of them like actually had like a naturally like nice. It's just harder. Yeah.
Yeah, it's awful. Yeah, so ab and thigh, like doing an ab and thigh pose off season, like why even bother? Really? Like what am I trying to show you? It's not like there's nothing there. There's nothing there in my abs until like I'm leaner. Um, so that's my least favorite by far. I I have a couple favorites, but I would say side try is probably my favorite overall favorite. But I love front double bicep too, back double as well. But my overall is tricep
You
because I
want to know
can't.
the crazy thing about the 6 foot tall woman that had the only like naturally looking abs? She had 5 kids.
Oh my god,
So I don't know what that was all about. So yeah, I again, that
that's genetics for you.
yeah, I guess. But when you walk on that stage after putting in all that hard work on a prep, what is that moment like for you when you finally get to show off all that hard work?
um, I would say that it's probably like it's almost like a relief that you're finally there. But then at the same time, it's like, oh, what could I have done better? But then if you know that you're doing everything that you can do, that thought is really never there. But then you're kind of like picking yourself apart too. Like, I know that this needs to be better. And I know that so like every pose, like say I go up for my back double bicep, right? I know my lats need to be wider. So I'm like, hopefully they're looking for conditioning because I know my back is conditioned, but also knowing that these girls' backs are wider than mine. So it's like you're picking yourself apart too, but at the same time you're relieved because you finally like made it to that line, Just I don't call it the finish line because if you're doing multiple shows, there's more than one finish line, but you're finally there. You're at your destination, everything that you worked for. So it's almost like a relief.
Yep. And I mean, my favorite thing to ask is, what was that moment like when they announced your name and you realized, oh my god, I'm a pro now?
It was the craziest feeling because it took me so long and so many categories, so many organizations to get to where I finally wanted to be. So it was probably the most surreal moment in my life. Like I like it's gonna happen because like you're if you competed enough, like where you're standing on stage, where they're putting you, whatever, how you're doing. So like as the show was going, I already knew what was happening, but like you almost still doubt it. You're like, what if I don't get it? So yeah, it was the craziest feeling. Like I didn't know what emotion I should be having. It was probably all of them at the exact same time.
See,
So
another reason why I could never compete, I would be the person who's like, "Oh my god, don't fall, don't trip, don't do anything stupid, don't." I'd be that one guy where I hit one pose just wrong at the very end. I'd be like, "Oh damn it, like I blew it or something." Like yeah, I would be just too much of a bundle of nerves. But yeah, I cannot imagine what that feeling must be like because now I mean you can compete in the pro shows. I mean that's I've had guests on that have won so many pro shows, but they still say winning that pro card is the highlight of their career just because that's the affirmation of all the hard work they put into it. But now actually my favorite question, what is your go-to post-show meal?
so burger and fry is definitely up there. But sometimes I use that as like a loading meal too. So sometimes I get one before the show. So if I get one before the show, then I'm like, wow, I don't need a burger and fry again because I just had that. But it's always a safe bet. Like I you can't go wrong with a burger and fry. But I also love sushi too. So that's my other post show favorite. Only because I've been doing this for a while, I know that certain things make me feel like crap, and sushi doesn't do that. So I'm like, well, I can just eat the sushi, enjoy it, because it's gonna feel like a crazy good cheat because I've just been eating fish and asparagus this whole time. So it's gonna taste amazing regardless, and I'm not gonna get sick from it. So
I just as a rule just live by if it's an animal or if it's anything that was once alive, it has to be cooked for me to eat it. That's just how I
I'll
mean
eat a raw piece of salmon like a polar bear. I don't care. I love it. The
yeah.
polar bear salmon, I think that they do, right?
Well, in Minnesota, they probably have it. I mean, good God, we have fried walleye at our baseball stadium, for God's sake. So, but like, I had sushi one time because I'm a very picky eater. So my friend's like, well, I know you like chicken a lot. So just have some wrapped tuna or something like that. It's like, it's the chicken of the sea. And I was like, okay, fine, I'll have it. They videoed it to me and I will never allow it to be released today. I almost threw up a little bit. And then I had about half of it in one bite. And I was just like, yeah, never again. So that scarred me, but yep. I mean, just I would like I told you before, I would rent out a Five Guys for a night and just be like, "You're gonna feed me until I puke, pass out, or throw up."
Uh,
Either way, I'm
Five
getting
Guys.
my money's worth. Oh yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah,
I
I'll
mean,
say five.
one thing that is also not talked about as much as it should be is post-show blues because a lot of people do not understand that you're not going to maintain this look for 365 days out of the year,
Mhm.
unfortunately. I mean, the human body is not meant to be in that condition of a state for that long. People don't realize that when you walk on that stage, most of the time you're at your weakest that you'll ever be just because of all the dieting and all of the stuff that's
Yep.
gone on. What was that like for you when you first realized that, like, oh my God, I can work my butt off and no matter what, I'm going to have to put on some weight afterwards? Has it gotten easier for you to accept that as your career in the sport has gone
Oh
on?
yeah. Yep. Definitely. Without a doubt. Like I made the mistake for a long time, which I probably stopped. Well, definitely stopped like a lot of my growth. Like I could have been a lot bigger and a lot better now if I didn't have all that mental crap go on after the show, like trying to maintain that look and then being like, okay, well, I'm just gonna take 6 weeks off and then I'm gonna start prep for another show. And I just kept on doing all these shows just to like keep lean, but like you're not gonna ever get any better doing that. And people tried to tell me that, but like I can be very stubborn, so like I had to figure it out for myself. Like people can tell me until they're blue in the face, but until like I was just like until I took that time off and actually like realized what a difference it made, then like that's what proved it to me. And it was like forced time off, really. Like I purposely took 1 year off, and then the second year happened by accident. So I was forced to take all that time off, and it ended up helping me because then the year after that is when I became a pro. So it just proved it. So now I can go with it. I can embrace it. Like it sucks to see your lines fade. It sucks to not like have what abs I actually do have like go away. But I mean, it's part of it, right? You can get it back. That's the thing. I think that's the thing that makes it okay. It's like, okay, so if I put on a little weight, I know how to get it off. So it's okay. It's not a big deal.
Wow, a bodybuilder being stubborn. I've never heard of that one before.
Mm, right.
No, yeah. But I mean, is it hard for you to also do posing in the off season? Because that's one thing that a lot of people that I've talked to, like that is the biggest struggle for them to see themselves in their off season body and do posing. Or is that one of those things where you're just like, hey, it's a necessary evil?
Um, it's definitely not as fun. Posing's a lot more fun when you're lean. Even though you're tired and you don't always want to do it, it's a lot more fun to look at. That's for sure. Um, yeah, it's a necessary evil. Yeah, for sure.
Yep. I mean, that is, yeah. Honestly, if I was at my heaviest and I had to do I mean, yeah, that's a whole different story. So I sympathize with the people that, I sympathize with the populace of my podcast. But I told you this before. I mean, I hate cardio more than life itself. And when I say cardio, I mean running. Like walking, I do not count that as cardio. Walking is something that everyone does. But I mean, when you become a bodybuilder, you unfortunately have to sign a deal with the devil when it comes to cardio. What is your relationship with cardio like?
Well, because I used to be the cardio queen.
That too.
Um, so I have a love hate relationship with it. Like when I don't have to do it, I don't miss it. But when I am doing it, I am obsessed with it. So yeah, it goes either way for me. Coming off of the last show I just did, I'm doing some cardio, but obviously I cut it back significantly, so it's not as so it's actually like enjoyable right now. I don't run. I don't ever run anymore. Once I realized how awful it is for your joint, especially a tall person who's not built for running. Yeah, how bad it is for your joints and your hips and everything. Like, no, all set. But um, I don't mind getting on an elliptical. We'll do an elliptical here and there. It doesn't bother me. So I like riding my bike outside.
That was the only thing that I hate about baseball is being a pitcher. They just had you run constantly. That's all you did because you had to work on your legs. That's what you had to do for being a pitcher. So it was just like, and we had two guys on the team that were taller than me, and I was like, oh, those. I mean, one was 6'5", one was 6'6", and I was like, dude, like, what are we doing out here? Like, this is so. Yeah, that is. Yeah, I that's probably what inspired that hatred of me and doing running. But I mean, sleep is one thing that needs to be talked about more than it is because I mean, it's hard enough as it is when you're not in a healthy and fit lifestyle. But when you become a bodybuilder, sleep is the most precious commodity. And anyone that disagrees with me on that, pull an all-nighter, then go try to work out and tell me how that works for you. I mean, sleep is just the biggest indicator for me, at least, of whether or not I'm going to have a good day or not. Let's be completely honest. But
Oh,
what is your sleep schedule like? I mean, is it is it still easy for you to get the sleep as you go on preps? Because I mean, I know from talking to people that on preps, I mean, some people are like just function off of like 2 hours of sleep, basically.
so my last prep, I did function on 2 hours of sleep.
Oh God.
At all. I sleep good 99% of the time, but once I get to a certain leanness, I can't. Like I can't sleep at all. This prep was a lot better. I think I was a lot less stressed out for whatever reason it was. But I was a lot calmer. So um I don't know. This prep was different. I got a lot better sleep, but my sleep schedule, I go to bed relatively early. Like I said, I own a personal training studio, so I have clients that start at 5 a.m. and I do fasted cardio. So that means I'm up at 2:45, 3 o'clock in the morning. So going to bed at like 9, 10 o'clock. It's probably like average, I would say. Um, but because I do own a personal training studio, I go around other people's work schedules. So I'll work 5 to 10 a.m. and then I go back in the afternoon, usually after I work out. So I'll work out, go home, take a nap. I call it my post workout nap, and then I go back to work. So
As you can tell, unfortunately, I'm too hyper for naps. My nap for me is I just lay there and I close my eyes and I think about sleeping, and then that's about it. That's. I mean, it works if you do it for like half an hour or something like that. You get a little bit of recovery, but it's like it's not near. I've always said for people like bodybuilders or just people that struggle with sleep, that stuff that they give you, like the anesthesia for surgery, they should just give that to the general public and just be like, here,
oh, love that.
like how much that would be benefit bodybuilders. Like, yeah, just put the mask on. You can get your 8 hours every day. It's like I would,
I
yeah.
love that. I love anesthesia.
Although, again, I do realize the problem of if that fell into the wrong hands, good God, the damage that could be dealt to the public.
Oh,
So,
mhm.
that it's better. It's better that we keep it to the doctors. There's that. So, with every positive, there's a negative. So, yeah,
Right.
there's definitely with that. But I mean, like, let's be honest. You're not the average looking woman, too. You walk out in the general public, especially dressed the way that you are right now. I mean, you're gonna get stares just because it's human nature when they're just like, oh wow, that's not something that I see all the time. So it's just, I sort of like to compare it to be like being a mini celebrity, where it's like you're just gonna draw more people's attention. What has that been like, and is it easier for you as you've gotten sort of more used to it, just accept the fact that like, hey, I'm gonna draw more people's attention when I'm out and about.
Well, I think because of my height, that's always happened to
That
me
too.
anyway. Yeah, so it kind of wasn't that weird for me. So people like I don't blend in, I guess you could say. So just from the height alone, so then add in the tan and the working out on top of it, then but it never really changed. Like the only thing that happens is like people will make more comments to you. Like when you're just tall and thin, like usually you don't get many comments, but like when you're tall and built, that's when people will start like saying things to you. But I mean, for the most part, you kind of don't even see people noticing anymore. It's just part of like your everyday. So
Yeah, I mean, I always forget that with the tall people too. I was like, yeah, we're especially with the women. It's like, yeah, you're already used to it. I mean, unless it's like, yeah, it's already like ingrained in you. But one thing that I bet you still hear all the time, and it's one thing that has gotten better the last like 5 years, basically because of I think social media and all those things has helped it, is that so many people have that belief that like, oh, if I go and work out, I'm afraid that I'm just gonna get too big, I'm gonna get too bulky, especially with women. First of all, everyone, I've made this offer every time and I will continue to make it. If that does happen to you, I will spend my entire life savings to train with you once because you have found the secret that everybody and their brother has been looking for. You will be probably the first ever trillionaire that's ever lived. I mean, it is just ridiculous, but I bet you still hear that all the time. How do you like to respond to that?
well, because I do what I do for a job, that is what I hear all the time. So all they it's the same thing every time a female comes in, they want to lose weight and they want to tone. So I explain to them like, so I'll give you an example. I've had somebody say, come up to me, they were like, I want to look like you. I do this, this, and this, and this. And all they're talking about is doing cardio and running and all this stuff. I was like, well, you do the exact opposite of what I do. So you're not going to look like me. So so they're confused about that, number one. They're confused that I'm actually trying to get big. Like I'm trying to put on size, and that's why I look like
She
this.
didn't slip and fall and then just wake up like this.
Right, right. Like this doesn't happen by accident. It doesn't happen by like lifting weights a few times a week. That like you have to purposely try to get this way. So that's what I try to explain to people. But I also try to explain to them muscle is good. You want it. Because the more muscle you have, the better you're gonna look, the better your clothes are gonna fit. You're actually being um a smaller size. And guess what? You'll be able to eat more food. Who doesn't want that?
Well, you mentioned clothes, and I mean, being a tall woman, it's hard enough to find clothes, but being a tall, muscular woman, how do you even find clothes that fit you? Because like that's got to be a very niche market in the clothing industry.
It's gotten better over
Yeah.
time because fitness has become such a popular thing. But I will tell you, to see me in a pair of jeans probably won't happen. If you see me in a pair of jeans, they're not real jeans. They're stretchy. So unfortunately, I do what I do for work, so I can live in gym clothes anyway. Yeah, and gym clothes have become fashionable, so you can kind of like wear them out, and no one even really thinks anything about anyone wearing leggings. So, yeah, that's what I live in, like most people these days.
I will say this though, and I mean, you can cancel me if you want, general public, but like when you reach a certain weight, no, don't wear leggings. Come on, people. It's like for the safety of the public. I mean, we all have seen those people that they're just like, you're just like, come on now. Like, let's be.
That might have been worse than my bipolar comment.
Oh, I don't care. Yeah, we'll call a spade on here. I'll do that. Whatever.
Yeah, that's all
If you're
right.
like 450 pounds, if you're a male or female, come on now. Come on, people. Like we want to try to set. I don't know, but yeah, I stand by what I say. And if you want to cancel me, cancel me. I don't care because I will die on that hill because I see that way too much. Especially when I go out on my walk later, I'll probably see some of that. Oh God, never mind. I mean that and like the young kids wearing that stuff too, where you're just like, okay, you're like 9 years old and stuff like that, and you're like in leggings. It's like, what's going on, people? So that's a whole different podcast I'll work on where I talk about the clothing degeneration of our society. But moving on. So moving on. Angela, if someone were to walk up to you and say, like, we made the decision, you can change one thing about the sport of bodybuilding, and everyone would go along with it, what would be one thing that you'd like to see changed?
Um, I would say that the more, and I know it's hard too from the organization's point of view and like how they have to do things, but like more clear cut of which category, who should be in what category. Because I think there's a lot of I don't want to say lines crossed, but like people maybe shouldn't be in some categories that are, and vice versa. So I think that it should just be more clear. But again, that's like hard. Those are hard rules for people to set because it can be an idea, but then you also have to go by who shows up. So it's tough.
Well, I honestly think for height too, like at the pro shows, there should be a cutoff of like, like 5'7", 5'8", maybe even 5'6", and just have that be two separate categories. And then if you want to see like, oh, who's the true, physique competitor or whatever, then yeah, sure. Then you can have the short one against the taller one and see, who judges more and stuff. Because like there are times where I've talked to guests where it's like, yeah, if you're 5'10", 5'11", you're competing against people that are 4'10", 4'11", you cannot be judged the same. I'm sorry. It's not possible.
Right. Or if they wanted to do like, I'll give you like, I'm speaking from like women's physique.
Yeah.
So I personally think that it should be like almost like a men's classic physique category where there's a height to weight ratio. And I think that that would make it a little bit more fair because like I think some people have gone to like the bodybuilding side, but like aren't actually competing in bodybuilding. Um, so I think the height to weight would make it more because so in my eyes, women's physique is like the version of men's classic. Like so it should be kind of the same structure as far as the criteria goes for judging. That's my personal opinion, anyway.
Yeah, I had a guest on recently. I'll mention her name after we're done recording. Where literally she's a physique competitor, and she's one of those where you're like, you're not a bodybuilder, like your arms are basically taking up the entire screen, and you're just like, yeah, so it's just, yeah, there's that as well. So but that's, and honestly too, the prize money, where it's like, for in my humble opinion, if you are a pro in this sport, you should not have to work a 9 to 5 job, because like this lifestyle is hard enough as it is. To be
Hmm.
able, like the people that like you said, you run your own studio, you deal with other things, it's like that makes this journey so much harder than it has to
Hmm.
be. Where it's like, if you're a pro, you should be able, and I'm not talking about like being like millionaires and stuff like that, but like you should be able to just focus on your bodybuilding. Yeah, get some sponsors, get some stuff, make some extra money, but like they should be like a stable set of income where it's like, even if it's like 30,000, $40,000 or something, like just to be able, so that you can like have a base. Because yeah, I mean, it's like people do not understand that like this is not a sport that you do if you want to make money. I'm sorry, where it's like you are going to lose money. So that's another thing where I look at these athletes and I was like, okay, that's a different level of dedication, where it's like most of these people lose money doing this lifestyle. And it's like, yeah, for me, just to have that base of income where you're just like, yeah, you can focus more on your look and stuff like that, because it's hard enough as it is.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that. Let's
And
get to my idea and your idea. Let's make
absolutely,
it.
well, absolutely, yeah. And I know I have other ideas on judging too, but I don't want to, get in trouble with all that stuff too. Where it's like some of these judges, it's like they still judge it like it's like the 1980s, but we won't get into it too deeply with that. But I mean, when we do have you on a year from now, because I'd love to have you on in a year just to see where you've been at and what you've done this last year. Where would you like to be at in your bodybuilding? Where would you like to be at just in your overall life? What are some goals that you'd like to have accomplished when we have you on a year from today?
Okay, so this year I competed. My first, I did two pro shows, 2 weeks apart. I did Pittsburgh and I did New York. So I've always wanted to do New York because that was the first pro show I ever like spectated at. It's a couple states away. I went to Bev Francis Powerhouse Gym in New York about a million times. I went every Sunday for 2 years. I drove 3 hours every single Sunday for 2 years to get there. Never mind 3 hours home, just to train there. So New York Pro was like, I know it's a hard show. I didn't even care if I got my kicked. Doesn't even matter. Um, to me, I needed to see what I looked like when I was in show shape next to these girls that have been pros for years when they're in show shape. So, because I mean, you can't stand next to somebody when you're in your off season and they're in their show. Like you might look the same size, but when you're dieted down, you are not the same size. So I needed to see like on stage, and it to me, like I was so happy turning pro. Like the fact that I have a video of me on stage with the New York Pro sign behind me is amazing to me. It does not matter the placing. I just wanted to see what it looked like, So anyway, so a year from now, I'm hoping to be closer to, me and my long ass limbs, hoping to be closer to what I need to be to actually be competitive. So my goal is to take this off season way more. Not that I don't take my off season seriously, um, but let's face it, we're all human. It can slip here and there. To really focus on it from now until when I start prep again, on putting on the size that I need and staying in the not the show condition, but not letting yourself get too out of shape at the same time over the next like until next year. So hopefully when I compete again, which will be probably the same time of year because I like competing in like the spring, early summer time. Hopefully, little bit better placing wise in whatever pro shows I choose. So that's my goal as far as competing goes.
And plus, the number one detractor of not wanting to maintain that look year round, I mean, you live in the East Coast. It gets cold during the winter. Now, granted, Minnesota weather is East Coast weather on steroids, like multiple steroids, but it gets cold on Rhode Island. And when you're that lean down, life is just unpleasant in the
Yeah,
winter. And I mean, it's unpleasant when it's 10 degrees there, and it's also unpleasant when it's negative 20 degrees here. So
yeah,
there's Oh my god. I mean, I thank God that's not winter because then all these audience members are like, all you do is talk about how cold it is, and I was like, that's all we have in Minnesota between the months of November and March is just death, just death and cold. That's really all we deal with up here. But I mean, lastly too, this is a question that I just thought of about 20 podcasts ago, which shows how great of a host I am because I've done about 550 of these. I get this every podcast I do with a health and fitness guest. I think this, whether or not I say it or not. Why do they do this? Why do they do this to themselves? I hear all these prep brain stories. I hear all these how hard this lifestyle is, and I know about like 1% of how hard it is just from my little like dip into the pool. I'm like, why do they do this to themselves? They go through so much for just such a little reward as opposed to like other sports and stuff like that. But how would you answer that? Because I bet like you even have maybe like family members or friends who even come up to you like, why do you put yourself through this? What is your response to that?
You know what's weird is yeah, like people always questioned it until I got to where I am now. And then when it finally happened, they're like, "Oh, okay, I get it now." They don't really get it, but at least I got what I worked so hard for, you know? Um, I think I mean it is hard, but I think it's all relative. I think as the more you do it, the stronger you become to it. And honestly, like this lifestyle, not necessarily like so the for me the worst part of prep is not the feeling hungry, it's the feeling tired. I hate feeling tired. I hate when everything becomes a chore. Like you drop something on the floor, you're like, oh my God, I gotta pick that up. Like I hate that's the worst part. So I don't mind eating clean and I love to train. So and I love structure. I love routine. So all that part is just like part of who I am. And so as far as like the bodybuilding lifestyle, it's my favorite lifestyle. Like it's fun to like go out with your friends and do that once in a while, but like I wouldn't want to do that every day like I do this. Like this is to me much more rewarding. I I said this to a client the other day. I said, I'd rather be jacked every day than drunk on the weekend. That's just how I feel about it. So to me, it's I just love the lifestyle. So when yeah, you're going through those last like 4 to 6 weeks at the end of a prep when you feel like absolute crap, you know the more you do it, it's just 4 to 6 weeks. You just got to get through it, you know? So
Yep, Ryan 20 to 23 would disagree with you on the drunk to weekends, but now that I'm 27, yeah, I agree with the Jack 24/7 thing. So there's a perspective that comes as you age, where I'd be like, wait, what? Not being drunk on the weekends, like what the hell's wrong with this person and stuff like that. So then it's
probably would have disagreed with what I just said.
oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, that's why I have some of these guests on that are like in their early 20s, and I was like, why? Like what?
Um,
Like enjoy your life for a little bit before you get into this so strict and regimented lifestyle. But then, and I've even had them on like when they're in like 18, 19. I was like, okay, that's just. But yeah, that's again a whole different thing. But
yeah, that's a whole different.
yeah. And as we wrap
Of
things,
my brain
oh,
that we won't even tap
it's
into.
like you went your
There's
entire.
the other side of me too.
Yeah, you went your entire college life on prep. Like, what the hell's wrong with you? So stuff like that. So it's
All
like, yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, Angela, I cannot thank you enough for coming on and sharing your journey with us and talking to us. I mean, it was an absolute delight.
Yeah, it was great. Thank you.
All right, well, everyone, go and check out our Instagram page, Buyer Beware. You will get inspired to get off that couch and stop eating all those Twinkies and, maybe, get in shape. But again, everyone, this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing off. Have a great day, everyone.